Welcome to Hypercar Global, where we talk about Tesla, Cybertruck and electric vehicles. Today we take a look at the delaying of the Cybertruck. Tesla's Cybertruck needs a lot of luck to hit its production target on schedule. Elon Musk floats optimistic timeline for Cybertruck production start, but deeper questions remain. Elon Musk says that Cybertruck deliveries could start by end of year, but that the company would be lucky to achieve this. The Cybertruck is expected to have a starting price of $39,900 and a range of 250 to 500 miles depending on version. Production line tooling is not in place yet, months ahead of the planned start, and some manufacturing methods including stainless steel stamping will be new to Tesla. For once, Tesla might begin production of a promised vehicle close to the timeline originally promised. Tesla CEO Elon Musk indicated last week during an earnings call that deliveries of the sharp-edged electric truck could begin at the end of this year, with a few caveats. If we get lucky, we'll be able to do a few deliveries toward the end of this year, but I expect volume productions to begin in 2022, Musk said during the call. The Cybertruck was revealed a little over a year ago, in late 2019, with a promised production start in 2021. So the company might technically begin production late this year, but wider production and delivery is still expected to take place in 2022, as Musk indicated. We finished almost all of the Cybertruck engineering, Musk added. So we're no longer iterating at the design center level or design level. We've got the designs fixed. We will soon order the equipment necessary to make the Cybertruck work. We're actually going to be using even bigger Tesla machines for the rear body of Cybertruck because we've got, obviously, it's a bigger vehicle and you've got a long truck bed. So we'll be using an 8,000-ton casting press for the rear body casting as opposed to 6,000-ton for Model Y. The market success of the Cybertruck is not treated as a sure thing for Tesla by some industry observers, who point out that all previous Tesla models had landed in vehicle segments that were generally well bought by early adopters on the two coasts. Trucks, especially ones shaped like the Cybertruck, could be an entirely different experience for the automaker, because there are only so many early adopters who have the garage space for something that may not be as commute-friendly. Is Tesla targeting repeat EV buyers or seeking to convert repeat gas or diesel pickup truck owners? The former seems to be a more natural target, which has prompted some to paint the Cybertruck as a luxury lifestyle toy rather than something that would be purchased by devoted pickup truck buyers. A middle ground of sorts also seems likely. The Cybertruck could appeal to green-minded suburbanites with a need for a family truck who were otherwise considering another four-door gas engine pickup. Some industry observers suggest that it's overly optimistic to expect first deliveries of the Cybertruck even in early 2022. This won't prevent the automaker from showing off a few pre-production prototypes at the end of this year to create the impression of production, with true volume production yet a half a year or more away. That's because some of the equipment for the production line sourced from manufacturing suppliers does not appear to have been secured yet. Another question is whether the Cybertruck will keep its edgy design and unpainted stainless steel skin, with which the company has no experience working. Think back on the production hell experienced by the Model 3 with its aluminum and steel components, which required welding techniques not necessary in the Model S, whose construction largely depends on rivets and adhesives. It's also an open question of whether Tesla will keep the shape of the concept truck shown at its debut a little over a year ago, or whether it will water it down to appeal to a broader audience. The design had been kept under a tight lid prior to its actual unveiling, and it immediately drew a polarized reaction from the crowd, tech glitterati, EV influencers, media, and from observers all over the world. Whether the Cybertruck will appeal to more traditional truck buyers who may eventually be interested in an electric truck is a consideration, too, because by the time volume production starts, Tesla will have a number of competitors in the EV truck category, starting with Hummer, whose production is slated to begin later this year. There is new news for the Model S as well. Tesla reveals yoke-style steering in Model S. But is this something drivers will actually want? Tesla unveils updated Model S with exterior and interior tweaks, including a new central screen and yoke-style steering wheel. Updates to Model S, which will ship next month, include new interior styling and features, but the base model will start at over $10,000 higher. Tri-motor Model S Plaid Plus will offer 520-mile range, 1,100 horsepower output, and price tag of $139,990. Never letting a quarterly financial call go to waste or be boring, Tesla used this week's earnings presentation to unveil long-awaited updates to the Model S, which has now been in production since 2012. The electric sedan was shown with a tweaked front fascia that may or may not be noticed right away by those who don't actually own a Model S. But the main course was inside, where a redesigned cabin included a yoke-style steering wheel. The refreshed interior also introduced a landscape-oriented touchscreen and a new screen for rear seat passengers. But it's safe to say that the main event was the yoke-style steering wheel. The steering wheel may certainly look cool at first glance, but it's another question of just how practical it would be to use on a daily basis, and how much training it could require to get used to it. It may remind some of the steering and kit from Knight Rider, but if an owner was delivered a Tesla and started driving it like a regular car in traffic, the learning curve could be steep, we suspect. However, Tesla has certainly shown a very high tolerance for adopting technology that could do the worst thing at the worst time, as the company described the rollout of full self-driving just a few weeks ago. Focusing on the Cessna-style steering, it's easy to miss something else that has changed. There are no stalks on the steering column, with Tesla having moved the blinker function to buttons on the steering wheel. Just how comfortable that change will be is a separate question as well, but perhaps it's prudent to point out that other automakers haven't done this despite buttons being cheaper and simpler to attach to steering wheels. So perhaps there are ergonomic reasons for why not everything is a button. Of course, the bigger question is whether Tesla will actually force this on buyers when the updated Model S rolls out next month, or whether it will be an option alongside a traditional wheel. At the moment it appears that the latter could be the case. The yoke-style wheel could be an option for those who want it, alongside a regular steering wheel. The new and wild steering wheel almost eclipsed another bit of Model S news this week, as the sedan will be offered in a tri-motor version called Model S Plaid, and a Model S Plaid Plus with a 520-mile range. That's right, 520 miles of range, rolled out as an arms race in EV range is heating and as other long-range EVs are about to hit the market. To top it all off, the Plaid Plus will rip from 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds thanks to an 1,100 horsepower output, and will continue up to a top speed of 200 miles per hour. Please don't try this on public roads. If 520 miles of range in an electric sedan sounds expensive, that's because it will be. The Plaid Plus will set buyers back $139,990, while the Plaid will be a bit south of that mark at $119,900. But even the base dual-motor version won't be staying put when it comes to pricing. Tesla is hiking its price up by over $10,000, with the Model S long range now starting at $79,990. This is now the least expensive Model S you can buy new, so for once recent buyers won't be complaining about having bought a Model S just before its price dropped. But they could still complain about having bought a Tesla just weeks before the yoke and the exterior updates have shipped. Biden plan calls for $100 billion in new EV customer rebates. It's unclear whether the new White House proposal helps or hurts some automakers. As we reported, President Biden's American Jobs Plan calls for a $174 billion investment to win the EV market. This includes point-of-sale rebates and tax incentives, and a national network of 500,000 EV chargers by 2030. Now we know $100 billion of it would go to new customer rebates, but might only go to less expensive EVs. When we reported on President Biden's March 31 American Jobs Plan, we said that the proposed $174 billion to win the EV market, including point-of-sale rebates and tax incentives, and a national network of 500,000 EV chargers by 2030. The fine print on those rebates and tax credits are forthcoming, we wrote. Now we're starting to see some of the fine print. According to a U.S. Transportation Department email sent to congressional staff and seen by Reuters, the $174 billion proposal calls for $100 billion in new consumer rebates and $15 billion to build 500,000 new charging stations. On the surface, the new EV rebates could be a big boost to, say, Tesla and General Motors, but because the two automakers have sold more than 200,000 zero-emission models, they no longer qualify for $7,500 tax credits. The White House declined to say how the $100 billion would be distributed or how much the grants will be, but Michigan Senator Debbie Stabenow and Representative Dan Kildee told Reuters they have been working on a bill to expand the EV tax credit. The problem for GM and Tesla is, Kildee said he wants to skew the credit in favor of more affordable vehicles with longer range, to democratize the electric vehicle market. He said they are looking at ways to make the credit more accessible to middle and lower income families, potentially even making the credit refundable. That helps the Bolt EV and Bolt UV and Tesla Model 3, but not the Hummer EVs, Cadillac Lyriq, Tesla Model S, Model Y. You get the idea. Kildee told Reuters that EVs are where the market is going, full stop. The only question that we have to answer is, are these going to be vehicles made by American workers? Kildee said they could also introduce a credit for used EV purchases. Stabenow said it was important to give automakers incentives to produce electric vehicles in the United States. China has committed $100 billion to grab this market, both battery cell production but also in other component parts of electric vehicles, Stabenow said. We better take it seriously. Reuters points out that in 2019 Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer proposed $392 billion in subsidies for consumers to trade in gasoline-powered vehicles at least 8 years old for an EV, plug-in hybrid, or fuel cell car. We're sure many details have yet to be worked out, as the mechanics of what new EV incentives and credits will be is still very much in development phase. It is difficult at this point to suggest which automakers are likely to see most benefit, Stephanie Brinley, IHS Markit's principal automotive analyst, told AutoWeek. The target for the incentives is to increase overall adoption of electric vehicles, and is not aimed to support one automaker over another. As with all such programs, there will still be some that inadvertently appear to benefit more than others. Brinley points out that automakers all in on EVs aren't necessarily worried about incentives. Rather, they're in it for the long haul. Their core forward product decisions are being made independently of the potential for U.S. tax credit, she told us. Government incentives will be appreciated for the potential for speeding adoption, but the incentive program is unlikely to have impact on the overall trajectory of an automaker's EV plans. In fact, Brinley told us the investment in infrastructure could ultimately prove more important to increasing EV adoption than potential consumer incentives. The incentives may have the potential to speed up the process, though it could be argued that the existing tax credit hasn't provided that much of a spark, she said. The current credit program was written such that once an automaker sold 200,000 qualifying vehicles, the tax credit would be phased out. In 2008 when the rule was written, and then in 2013 when extended because no one had come close to reaching qualified sales, it wasn't expected that it would take until 2019 for any automaker to reach that credit, let alone that only two have reached the phase-out period so far, GM and Tesla. She told us that if you consider sales in 2020 and 2021, there are examples of EVs not eligible for the credit outselling those that are. It is not clear that the existing credit has done much one way or another to encourage adoption over time. We have seen the combination of state and federal incentives create increases in EV sales in certain areas that fall back once they are ended, but it's not really clear that the federal credit has moved the needle over the past decade. Meanwhile, as we reported several days ago, a group of 10 U.S. senators called on Biden to set a date by which new sales of fossil fuel vehicles will end entirely. Another group, with 70 House Democrats aboard, wants 60% of new passenger car and truck sales to be zero emission by 2030. California Governor Gavin Newsom pledged to end fossil fuel sales by 2035, and the state's two U.S. senators, Alex Padilla and Dianne Feinstein, recently urged Biden to set his own date.